Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Dr. Glenn Vo. I am super excited to have a super pediatric dentist on the show today. Before I get into this episode, I'd like to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, DocSites. Now, having a website is super important for your practice, but it doesn't have to be expensive. DocSites has been hooking us up with amazing deals with websites for a long time. Go check them out and make sure you ask for the Nifty Thrifty deal. But before I introduce her to you guys, imagine a pediatric dentist who's not only an amazing clinician, but is also a DJ. And also a pediatric dentist who is on point with her branding with four amazing vehicles that promote her practice. And what if I have someone here who literally just kind of found her way, stumbled her way into the practice of her dreams here in Dallas, Texas? It's Dr. Ashla Martin. Ashla, welcome to the Nifty Thrifty Dentists Podcast.
Thank you so much, Glenn, for having me today. I'm truly excited. And I'm very big on outreach. So I take the Smilemobiles to career days. And I just did one a few days ago at, what was the school? It was like an elementary school in Cedar Hill. So I take it there.
And they must love it.
They do love it. So they love it. And I usually just have it in my PowerPoint. But I actually have two. So there are actually 4 Freckles the Smilemobile. So I have 2 cars that you can drive, but then I have 2 like power wheels that are wrapped as well that I have at the office, and I take them to different outreach events. So the kids actually love it. Sometimes it causes a little.
What do the kids get more excited about? Like as far as the vehicles, as far as the power wheels and your 2 cars, like which one has gotten
the power wheels because they can get in it.
They can get in it.
Yes,
oh man,
yes,
I love that.
Yes.
I love that. And then the you were talking about like you have a classic car that's wrapped too. I'm sure like the parents, like people like me are like get really excited about it.
Yes, a lot of people wanted a Beetle or either that was their first vehicle. So I have people that stop by the office that just want to go look at it.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Do you have it? Do you normally park it at the office?
It is parked at the office typically.
And people probably you probably see before they come in, they're like looking at it and stuff like that.
And that's the reason that some of the kids come to my office. Their parents will say, he or she kept seeing that car and they said, I want that to be my dentist.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Now I have to ask you something because, I mean, look, Freckles the Smilemobile, I mean, the way you're dressed, the way you present yourself, I mean, you got your branding on point. You got your branding on point. Is that something that's just natural to you, or is that something that's intentional? Like I want to make sure that my branding's out there. Tell me about that because, literally, like you got that down. Like when you with your car, when I walked in, I'm like, you got a car here. I want to get some. Automatically, I was talking to Derek, and I was like, man, we got to get some pictures of this, But what's is that something that comes natural? Or is that something that you're real intentional about?
It's, I guess, something that came natural. My father actually has a background in marketing.
Okay.
And so one day my pastor asked me, do you have a background in marketing? And I was like, no, something that I'm passionate about, and I'm big on branding.
Yeah.
Of course, I love colors, and kids love colors.
Yeah.
And so I've incorporated it into my practice.
I love it. Now, have you ever thought about like coaching other doctors to do this? Because this is not something I'm going to tell you right now. And I didn't realize this till later because people would come up to me. They're like, "Hey, how do you do this with a podcast?" I know we were talking about podcasts earlier. How do you do this and this? And I'm like, "Well, you just do it, right?" Like it's funny because sometimes I just assume like everybody knows how to do all these things when it comes to branding and whatnot. And so I mean, have you thought about because it's obvious to us, but there's a lot of doctors out there who don't know these. Have you ever thought about getting into like coaching other doctors up and pediatric dentists? Now, I have to admit, you're different from other pediatric dentists I know. I know a lot of pediatric dentists, and they're great, okay? They're great clinicians. They got great personalities. But, like when I go to their office, it's like just looks like a normal office. There's nothing fun about it. I mean, it's like your audience, your patients are kids, like, so not every pediatric dentist is like you. Have you ever thought about like getting into coaching or mentoring some of these other pediatric dentists?
That's an interesting question. Several people have actually asked me that.
Yeah.
And so this past year, I became a part of the John Maxwell leadership team.
Oh, I love that.
And so I am doing a lot of speaking as well as considering coaching.
Yeah.
So perhaps.
I mean, again, I love John.
Love that.
I love John Maxwell. You actually talked about your pastor just kind of like influencing you. And I'm a really big believer that sometimes God just puts signs out there, right? And sometimes people will say, I'm gonna get a little philosophical. So for people who are watching this, you're gonna have to bear with me here. It's my podcast. I can say whatever I want, right? But some people will say, like, man, nothing ever goes for me. Nothing ever happens for me. Everyone gets all these blessings and stuff and whatnot. And I always respond to them, sometimes God puts a sign out there. He'll put the sign out there. It's up to you to see those signs. If you don't see those signs, that's on you. That's not anyone else's problem. And so with that being said, I just feel like this is something that, all the signs all the stars are aligned, signs are there. So I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay.
And again, we'll make sure that we'll put this in the show notes, your contact information, because your branding is on point.
Thank you.
And it's a good thing too. Like you're generally really want to make things comfortable for the kids and give them a good experience.
That's true. I actually have my DJ booth set up at the office now.
So now we gotta talk about that.
Yes.
So when I first met Ashla here at the dental festival, and I was just like, oh yeah, she's a DJ too. I was like, DJ? I'm like, what? Oh, she's a pediatric dentist. I was like, what? Okay, so you got to tell me the story behind that.
So Elijah is behind that.
Oh, okay.
Elijah actually asked me, would you like to do some DJing? And I was like, why not? Because music is therapy.
Yeah.
Kids love music. And as a pediatric dentist, I'm all about distraction.
Yeah.
And so the music is a great way to distract them. So I started DJing, and I did DJ at one of Elijah's events.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay, so as now, look, I mean, you and I knew, that's why I knew I wanted to get you on the podcast, because like when you said DJ, I was like, she obviously loves music. So now I cannot help myself, but we got to go into music now. Okay, your top five could be bands, could be vocalists, single vocalists, duets, whatever. You got to give me your top five on your list.
Top five. So I'm originally from Louisiana.
Okay.
So I love a little bit of Zydeco.
Okay.
And so I don't have an actual band that I love, but I listen to it all.
Yeah.
And then I actually do listen to Louisiana bounce music.
Wow, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I listen to a lot of gospel music.
All right.
I try to stay grounded in my faith. Corinne Hawthorne is one of my favorite gospel artists.
All right.
As well as Lecrae, who's a gospel rapper. And then I also like to listen to a little R&B, especially 90s R&B.
Okay.
So I love Mary J. Blige. And my old roommate loved Mary J. Blige, and that's how I started coming to like her, because we studied to it. Yeah. And so even now when I'm working on a project, I will listen to Mary J. Blige.
I love it. I've been a fan of hers ever since she collaborated with Method Man, right?
Yes,
I mean, but just to see her from where she started to where she is now, it's just mind blowing.
It is.
It's just mind blowing. Like she, you can't look at her and just say she's just an R&B singer. She's like a businesswoman. An influencer, someone who can really mentor people. So I had to get into the music. So I love that. Now, when you're DJing, do you ever DJ like in the office, like with patients there and whatnot?
I do. So whenever I have a moment, I do DJ, but I actually have someone that usually is on the ones and twos for me, because I have to make sure I focus on patient care.
Patients and stuff like that.
I'm trying to work on his DJ name, because my DJ name is DJ Kid at Heart. And so he hasn't picked one yet, but he usually works the DJ board for me.
Yes. I absolutely love that. How did the parents feel about that? How about the kids feel about that?
The parents and kids love it because, as we know, most parents have the anxiety and they're passing that on to their kids. And so music is therapy, of course, as we mentioned, and I think it just sets a different tone because they love it. It relaxes them, and so when parents are relaxed, what's going to happen next? Kids are relaxed because kids are basically a reflection of usually their parents' reactions and how their parents feel.
I mean, there's been so many times, and I think you can relate to this. There's been so many times where the parent will say something like, "Hey, if you don't stop acting up, the dentist is going to give you a shot," or do something like that, right? Like I see it all the time in my practice. I'm sure you see that all the time, and that is so true. The child is a reflection of like what the parents like transfer that. Like, so, we're going to switch gears a little bit here, and we're just switch to kind of like the clinical side. So we got a lot of like dental professionals that watch this podcast, listen to this podcast. They probably see kids too. What is your advice to them when there's a parent that says something like that? And what's the best way to handle that in a respectful manner? Like, we know that the parents, they don't mean harm. Right? It's just, they're just saying something to manage their kids and whatnot. But when those things happen in your practice, how do y'all manage that?
So it all depends on the situation. If I feel like the parent is really making the child upset, I will pull the parent to the side and have a conversation with the parent. But usually I will say, let's not say that. Johnny's doing great. Look how he's opening his mouth. And I redirect the energy. I just try to...
You make it positive.
Correct. I try to release all of that negativity, turn it into positive energy. Yeah. And sometimes it works, I will be honest. Most of the time it actually works. And so I just try to really...
Makes a kid feel good about themselves.
Yes, it does.
And then you don't kind of call out the parent.
Exactly. and that is the best way. But sometimes when parents are saying several things or like threatening kids with a shot, I will have to pull them to the side and just have a little conversation with them.
Have you ever had to like boot them out of there?
I have.
and here's the thing. I mean, that's a real thing. I mean, sometimes, I know a lot of pediatric dentists that they don't even let the parent go back into the op. Because of those things.
Yes, research has proven that kids do a lot better in dental settings without the parent. Because if you think about it, parents are a child's audience. Yeah. So if a parent is there, a parent is supposed to be empathetic. And so a kid knows that if he or she cries, the parent is going to come to his or her rescue. And so sometimes kids are con artists, so they know. So oftentimes kids will cry before we even get started when their parents are in the room.
And you haven't even done anything yet.
And then we are having to, so speed is one of the best behavior management techniques with kids. And so now we're having to talk to the parent. We're having to try to calm the child down versus I see two different kids when they come back by themselves versus when they're with a parent. Yeah. Sometimes I see 3 or 4 versions of kids. So if they're with their mom, and I have kids that have been in my practice for a while, and I'm kind of to the point now, and I say, Mom, I recommend he or she coming in with dad, or vice versa, because I have seen the kids respond totally differently with different parents, as well as grandparents. And so I see 3, 4 versions of the same child, but typically kids will do the best by themselves.
Oh, I love that. I love it. Now we're gonna go back in time here for a little bit. We're gonna go way, way back, and we're gonna go back to when you decided that you wanted to go into pediatric dentistry. Is that something that you always wanted to do? Is that something you realized in dental school when you said, you know what, I don't like root canals? I'm just going to, give us a story about that. And then talk about how you ended up in Cedar Hill, Texas. We talked about it briefly about like my ties to that area. What you decided to start there. So let's go way back and let's go to when you decided you want to get into pediatric dentistry. Because I'm going to tell you right now, God bless you guys. God bless you guys because I love working with kids, that are really good, right? But the ones that are, and I wouldn't say they're bad, they're just, needs a little extra attention that only a specialist can offer. I'm so glad that you guys are around. So it takes a special person to get into pediatric dentistry. So share the story of that. When did you decide? Why did you decide? And then we'll go from there.
So I always wanted to become a pediatric dentist. Okay. However, after I finished dental school, I decided I was just going to practice and see kids, focus on kids. So I was a general dentist for 4 years. Okay. And I worked in several settings, including a community health center, also in just a very rural area. And so I got to the point where I was referring kids out, but due to the distance, I knew that they were not going to be able to see a specialist.
And you had to deal with it.
And so I reached a point in my career where I, in a sense, felt helpless. I felt bad that I was referring kids that needed that care, that needed to be sedated, that needed to go to the hospital. So I actually decided to go back to school. And so I was a non-traditional pedo resident. Wow. And so I believe that was the best route for me because as a general dentist, there were some procedures that I did not like dentures were not my thing. Yeah. And so I just enjoyed seeing the kids. And I said, you know what? I want to be able to be the best. Yeah. And so as I started looking things up, I wanted to be board certified. I wanted to have hospital privileges. I wanted to be able to sedate. And so I went back to school.
Okay.
So I actually completed a hospital residency first, a GPR. And so ultimately that was my goal, to sedate. But after that, I said, you know what? I want to be the best. So I applied for pedo. And so I finished pedo. And
where did you go? Where did you do your pediatric residency?
At LSU.
LSU. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So I am originally from Louisiana.
Yeah. So that was a good situation for you.
Yes, it was.
Wow.
And so even people that have known me my entire life say, pediatric dentistry is for you. They can even just see the difference in me. When I was a general dentist, it was just like blah for me. Yeah, and so now I just feel like I'm definitely walking in my purpose.
Yeah, I love that. Now, how did you, again, you're from Louisiana, you did your residency there. How did you end up in Texas and then Cedar Hill of all places?
So after I finished my pedo residency, I looked for positions, and I found a position in Houston.
Okay.
Because I was between Houston and the Dallas area, and I had more family in the Houston area at the time, and so I went there and I practiced. And so I actually had a space in Spring, Texas, where I was going to open a practice. But all of a sudden, something just did not feel right. Yeah. And I spontaneously moved here. I think it was just meditation and
so it wasn't it wasn't for a guy or anything, right?
It wasn't for a guy. It wasn't for a guy.
A lot of times people are like, I ask them, how'd you end up here at somewhere else? And they always tell me it's either for a girl or for a guy for some reason, other than the professional. But this was literally, you just had a
whim that Houston was not my home, and I moved to Dallas. My family was like, "What? You're moving? Yeah. What's going on? I thought you were doing so well. You were about to open a practice in Houston." Something just didn't feel right, and so I moved here, and I moved to Arlington. And so on the weekends, I would just get in my car and just meditate on where should I be, where should I go. And so I went to Cedar Hill because I love to shop, and I'm big on decorating my home.
Yeah.
So I ended up at Home Goods. And I just felt like the people in that area were so pleasant.
Yeah.
So then I started looking into demographics, and I just felt like that was the place for me. So I had never even been to Cedar Hill prior to 9 years ago, which, of course, my practice has been there 8 years. That was my first time ever in Cedar Hill.
You hit the jackpot, I want to say right now, for those who are in Dallas-Fort Worth, or if you're not even from Dallas-Fort Worth, you look up Cedar Hill, one of the fastest growing communities, but just a very diverse area. And it's perfect for someone who is a specialist. And you went there, you said 9 years, right?
Yes.
Right when it's growing. It's pretty big now, but you got in there. I'm sure some of these kids that you were taking care of, they probably in college.
In college. Several kids in my practice have graduated out of my practice.
Man, how's that make you feel?
You know what? It's like a bittersweet moment. Yeah. I'm excited because they're venturing off to other careers, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, those are my kids at Heart Babies. You know, they're not going to be here anymore.
Wait until they come back and bring their kids.
Yes. You know what? I can't wait for that. I cannot wait.
That's something, being a general practitioner, I've already had, we've been around for almost 20 years now, and we've had our first patients like bring their kids.
Oh, wow.
And my wife and I were like, what the, we saw you when you're in high school, what's going on here? What's also crazy too is some of the patients that we've seen that they were in high school, they went to college, and now they're adults, and they live in the Metroplex. They still drive back to see us. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Great.
Do you get a lot of that? Like maybe people move away, but they're like, Dr. Martin's, that's our kid's doctor. Do you get a lot of those patients?
I do. I do have some college students that drive themselves, but I do phase kids out at age 18. So some of them will come back for like their first year of college, and I do extend the years for special needs. But for those other kids, I have to graduate them to you and to general dentists.
Oh, man.
But sometimes kids stop by and they drop off things from their college. I just received a card from Texas A&M and basically some Texas A&M paraphernalia and just a card that said, thank you so much for everything that you've done for me. So it's just great to see these kids grow up.
Oh, I love that. I love it. Now, we're going to go back to your branding because I know we just touched a little bit about it and also the DJing, but I want to go back to that because I feel that that's so important for not just pediatric. I'm talking about dentists, honestly, any professional out there. Now, you have a specific brand, but the thing about your brand is it matches you. You're not like trying to fake that. So again, talk to the doctors out there who are like, okay, you know what? I'm just Dr. So-and-so. I love my patients and I just keep it at that. But you shared a little bit of your own personality, your love for music and DJ. For those who are like, maybe I want to kind of show a little bit more, what are some of the things that they should be looking at when sharing a little bit about themselves? Because I think that's a huge part of what branding's all about,
That is so great. The best version of you and the best practice that you will ever have will be based on what you love.
What you love.
So that's the heart of Kids at Heart.
Yeah.
It's all the things that I love, fun, focused on kids, also my faith. Yeah. And so sometimes I believe as healthcare professionals, especially when you have different titles, you may suffer from imposter syndrome. Yeah. You may feel like you need to be a certain way. And I even feel like I went through a phase of that when I was a general dentist. But that was one of the things as a pediatric dentist, kids are just so innocent. And you can just be, I feel like that's one of the things that I love about pediatrics. You can be your authentic self.
Yeah.
And you don't have to really worry about anyone judging you. But at the same time, you have to be reminded that there will always be people that are going to judge you or people that may not like your style, but just being you. And that's one of the things I love about Elijah is just being you. That's the best version of you. And
I literally recorded a video not too long ago about why it's so important just to be your authentic self, because honestly, it takes too much energy to fake it.
It does.
I mean, sometimes you fake it for so long, you don't even know what's real anymore,
it's so true.
And again, like for all the dental professionals out there, look, we all suffer from some form of imposter syndrome because literally I don't know what everyone's background is, but you came from a certain background. Now you're a doctor, and now everyone expects you to know everything, and you're trying to figure things out. And then people expect certain things from you. And again, it becomes tiresome. So I love that piece of advice. Like, I mean, music is something and your faith is something big. Look, you might be into like, I don't know, like Star Wars or something, right? I mean, embrace that.
Yes.
Let the kids know about that, And again, if you're a general dentist and you're into something, like be your authentic self, because look, yeah, you just said it just now. Like, not everyone's going to like your style. And that's okay.
Yes.
That's a reason why there's a bunch of different dentists out there, right? They might not like you for any little thing. Why not just be yourself? And that way you don't have to fake. You might be faking it, and they might not like the fake side.
That's true. That's true.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Now, when you go do the outreach, because again, I love the like the cars and all the different branding and stuff like that. Do you ever do any DJing at like the schools or anything? Just a little something. Do you ever do anything like that?
Yes, I do. So I teach vision board classes to a nonprofit in Cedar Hill. Wow. It's called Chat. And so it's an after school program. So I have DJ'd at some of those events. And then I've also DJ'd at a Jack and Jill event. And so I incorporated a career day PowerPoint, and I just started it out with a little bit of music. And so I think it definitely sparks kids' interest. And, in a digital world, it is a lot more challenging now to keep kids' attention. So that music really kind of breaks the ice for me. And so I always try to lead any presentation that I do with music. And I always take my DJ board.
I have to ask you this. I mean, parents got to say, we never had a dentist like you before. I
hear that all the time.
Where were you at when I was a kid? You get that stuff there?
I hear that all the time, and I take it as a compliment. And I said, you know what? Kids don't know how good they have it these days.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, I just remember as a kid, I mean, my pediatric dentist, I mean, the coolest thing is he did have a goldfish tank outside. That was cool. But you came in, and it's the typical, the white wall.
Yes.
The smell of IRM in the air, right? The smell of IRM, and literally nothing to look at. And I mean, that was my experience. And now, I mean, again, dentists nowadays, I mean, we've leveled up as far as comforts. But I love what you did. You definitely set the bar up there. And I think going back to the coaching and mentorship, we'll make sure we have all your information there, because for any young doc out there who's thinking about opening their practice, y'all need to talk to her. She got her branding down. Okay, so we're going to switch gears here. I can't get someone like you on here without asking. I call it the Big Entrepreneur 3. There are 3 questions I ask every guest. The first question is, you got to share a productivity tip. It could be like an app. It could be like a tool, something that helps you become productive, right, or more efficient. That's question number 1. Question number 2 is, share a mistake you made that you learned something significant from. Now, if you're like me, you probably made a bunch of mistakes. You don't know what to choose from. But you got pick one, but something that our listeners can learn from. And the third part, which is what I always love, is share your favorite book or resource. All right, so the first question, again, is you got to share a productivity tip, something that you do. It could be like a tool or a habit or an app, something that you use that keeps you productive and efficient that other people could probably adopt.
So I'm very old school.
Okay.
I have a planner. It's actually called a Happy Planner.
All right.
And so it's a pretty big brand in the planner world. And I don't go anywhere without my planner. I journal in the planner, and Kids at Heart was the product of 10 years of journaling. Wow. In my Happy Planners.
Wow.
Even down to Freckles the Smilemobile, the car. And so I also have time slots where I get easily distracted at times, so it keeps me focused. So I plan my day typically on the hour. Now, I don't always follow that, but it helps me to stay focused.
I love that.
And that's one of the things I really have to work on, is staying focused.
Well, you know what? I have to admit, I mean, again, I love apps and I use like Google Calendar, all those things, but I still have the old school planner. And for me, I just like to hold things. I like to flip it open and actually write some stuff. So for those who are really big on the digital stuff, it also helps to jot down notes too. Yes. Like there's something about writing notes. I mean, it's kind of like when you're in school and you're taking notes. You're active, right? If you're sitting there and they give you the notes already and you're just reading it, you don't retain it as much. So I love that. I love that. Okay, so the next question, again, I can't have someone like you here without asking these questions. The second question is, share a book or some kind of resource. Could be YouTube channel, could be a podcast, but share something that you would recommend to others, book or a resource.
So I'm very big on audiobooks.
Okay.
And so that's in my Happy Planner. I try to listen to a minimum of one audiobook a month, but sometimes I'll replay the audiobook. And if the audiobook is really good, I will purchase the book.
Okay.
So the book that I'm reading again right now is The Practice RX by Dino Watt.
Okay.
One of my colleagues recommended this book, and it is amazing. And and actually I've met Dino Watt at events, and it's a great tool. I recommend it to anyone that has a business, especially a healthcare background business. But The Practice RX by Dino Watt is...
Shout out to Dino Watt out there.
Yes, shout out Dino Watt. Don't forget that.
I love that. I love it. Now, the next question is really important. I always ask everyone about mistakes they made and what they learned from it. Out in social media, especially social media, we'll see all these people and they're like, man, they got their stuff together. It literally, social media is like a highlight reel. But what people don't realize is that all the success, all the achievements that many people have, it's built on a foundation of failures and losses, and that's where you learn, right? So in the spirit of that, if you can share one mistake that you made that you learned something significant from that you can share with us so that maybe someone who's watching and listening, they might not make the same mistake.
So one of the things that I did when I initially opened is I said yes to almost anyone who stopped by my office.
Man, that's me right there.
Who tried to, I did. I said yes. I said yes to the grocery store ad in the shopping cart. I said yes to every magazine that stopped by. I said yes to every advertisement that you can name. And of course, those can be very costly.
Yeah.
And so when I look back at it, I should have really reached out and had a mentor that was doing really well in pediatric dentistry in my service area to see, what have you tried? And I should have asked for advice versus saying yes to everyone, because as I mentioned, it became very expensive. But one of the pros of that is I did realize what would work and what would not. And so, then I look back and I was like, why did I say yes to that grocery store advertisement, in the basket? As a matter of fact, I went over to the grocery store and I was paying for this advertisement and they hadn't even put the ad in the grocery store basket. So that was one of the things. So I said yes to everything. And then when you initially open a business, especially a dental practice, everyone is coming to solicit, no matter if you have that no solicitation on the door or not.
They'll try. They'll try. You have to get your gatekeepers on point.
I do now.
The team up in the front and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, that's such a valuable lesson that you learned, that we all learn, and saying yes. I mean, you can apply that to your personal life too.
That's true.
I mean,
that's true.
I mean,
so true.
And the thing is the better that you do, the more people come out of the woodwork. Okay, so yeah, that's something to keep in mind. And when you say yes to everybody, you don't have much left in your cup anymore.
Yes.
Right. Yes. So that is so important. Thank you so much for sharing that, especially with so many young doctors that come on and they're facing that too. Like everyone wants some of their business, right? You only have so much, right? So, but that's why it's so important to have mentors. That's why you guys should reach out to Dr. Martin here. She's got so much there. But thank you so much for answering those questions. Now we're going to go back. We're going to go back to the branding. We're going to go back to your cars, right? So talk about that, because I know that's something that is near and dear to your heart as far as branding for your practice and whatnot. So talk about, again, how did you get the idea for that? The name for it too? Give us the whole background with that particular part of your practice.
So I love cars. My father actually retired from GM.
Okay.
And his first vehicle was a Volkswagen Beetle. And so I decided that I wanted a mobile advertisement vehicle because I also always wanted a beetle.
Yeah.
And so I said, this will be the perfect opportunity for me to have a beetle that I've always wanted. And I thought about how different, over the years, people have branded beetles, like the Herbie the Love Bug.
Yeah.
And so I decided I was going to get a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
And so I incorporated that into the practice, and I designed it myself. I did research on colors. And so actually yellow, if you think about it, a lot of food businesses are yellow. And so it's very attractive, and kids actually love yellow as well. And I love yellow. And so that's how I decided to have a yellow beetle. And I always wanted an older version, but my dad said, well, just get a newer version so that way you can drive it around. You won't have any problems. So I purchased the newer version of the Beetle first, and then after 2 years, I found the 1975.
The old school.
The old school,
Oh,
and
man,
that typically stays at the office, but I drive it to events as well.
I love it. No, the name. How'd you come up with the name?
So the name stemmed from myself and my freckles. So I felt like it had little hearts on it. So the hearts on it are kind of the freckles on the car.
Yeah.
And so one day I remember a kid saying, what are those spots? And oftentimes kids ask me about my freckles. And so I said, you know what? I can incorporate that. That's something that will be here when I'm gone.
Yeah.
So freckles is actually a representative of myself because
that's
I have
the
freckles.
Name. That's the name of the car.
That's
so
the
now,
name of the car.
And now it makes sense.
Yes.
Now because I was gonna ask you, I was like, why are you calling it Freckles? Smilemobile. And it's and now it makes sense because the representation of you. I love that. And again, the branding is on point because there's a connection there. You're not just again, we talk about being authentic, right? Sometimes you come up with a brand and you can fake it, but if there's no connection, there's no deeper meaning there. And there's so many conversations that come up from that too. Yes. I mean, because I can't be the first person to ask you why you named it that, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
A lot of people ask me that. And initially, I named it Freckles. And sometimes people, that's like my nickname too. People call me Freckles.
Yeah.
And so one day, I just realized that the car was having an impact on other people. As people look at me driving by, their babies are pointing and everyone's smiling. So later, I added the Smilemobile to it. So it was initially Freckles, and then I later had the Smilemobile wrapped on it as well. So now, altogether, it was Freckles the Smilemobile because it was actually making people smile, whether they were my patient or not.
I love it. Now, I want to know what the future holds for Dr. Ashla Martin here. What are some of the things that you would like to accomplish? Probably, let's say, like the next 5 to 10 years. Is it continue to run your practice? I planted a seed in your head about mentoring and coaching because I think that you could really help a lot of people in branding. What does the future hold for you? What are some of the things that you want to hopefully accomplish in the next 5 to 10 years?
So perhaps coaching.
Yeah.
And building my already nonprofit Dentist at Heart mentorship program, and maybe coaching some dentists. So I'm glad that you put that on my heart. But I am transitioning more into speaking. I'm speaking at the TDA in May, so I'm very excited about that.
I think you should do some CE. I'm just throwing it out there.
I do plan on doing some CE in cahoots with Benco as well as Legally Mine.
Yeah.
And so I have some things in the works. I'm actually working on my first book. And so I'm planning to have that finished by summer. And
you definitely got a lot of stuff on your plate here.
I do, and as I mentioned earlier, I have to focus. But I'm a visionary. I love being busy. That's one of the things I like about pediatrics. You have to be very fast-paced. And so sometimes my mind never shuts off. Like I wake up in the middle of the night and I journal, and I'm writing ideas. And so those are my main focuses, as well as hiring an associate for my practice. So be on the lookout. I will have that advertisement out sooner than later, where I have a pediatric dentist that comes on board, and maybe even a general dentist who specializes with kids.
Well, I mean, I just want to throw it out there. I mean, for those who are watching right now, if you want to learn from someone who knows what she's doing, best way to learn is hands-on, working side by side. So you might want to reach out to her. She's looking for an associate, so we can just throw that out there. Before we go to what's the best way to get a hold of you, I want to touch base on your nonprofit. Can you talk about your nonprofit? What was the idea behind that, and what does your nonprofit focus on?
So the reason that I'm here is that I shadowed my mother's dentist, and I explored a few careers, nursing, engineering, and one summer I shadowed my mother's dentist, and I fell in love with it. I loved her personality, and then later I shadowed a pediatric dentist. And so every time that I would go to her office, she would say, "Why don't you come back another day?" And her name is actually Dr. Perkins, Dr. Teresa Perkins. And I just felt like she was a superhero. Wow. Kids would come in, they would be so anxious, they would be crying, just very nervous. And she was just, I felt like this woman, that she had the patience of Job. And I said, I want to be like her. And so I think she thought maybe I was always dissuaded because the kids were crying and, nothing would really be going on. They were just afraid. Yeah, and then sometimes just age appropriate behavior, this fear of the unknown. And so I just wanted to grow up to be like her. And so when I became a dentist, I always opened up the office and opened up opportunities for kids to come and shadow me. And I have helped several kids over the years with their essays for dental school and actually medical school and pharmacy school. And so anything that I can do to influence other dentists, because honestly, I would not be here if two dentists did not take the time to let me shadow them and for it to let me go under their wing.
I love that. Paying it forward.
Paying it forward, yes.
That's what it's all about.
Yes.
I love that. I love it. Now, speaking of paying it forward, this is the best way to tie things up there. For those who want to reach out to you, there's so many reasons to reach out to you. If you're a pediatric dentist, if you're a general dentist, you want to learn about branding. Heck, if you want to learn about, being able to pay it forward, you want to get a hold of this woman right here. For those who want to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
So you can definitely reach me on Instagram, and my first name is ASHLA, last name Martin, MARTIN. So they can definitely reach me on Instagram. That's the best way to reach me right now.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, and also, we're not gonna post our phone number in there, but you can also find her on Facebook too. I talked to her on Facebook as well. So first, I want to say thank you so much for being here. Man, you have really inspired me with all the things that you're doing. But I love the fact that you put a personal touch, a personal connection to branding. So for those out there, look, there's a lot of books on branding, right? There's a lot of resources out there. But I'll tell you what, if you can find someone who's in your industry, who's in your particular niche, that has their branding on point, you should reach out to them. So if you're a pediatric dentist, y'all need to reach out to her. But Ashla, thank you so much for jumping on. We appreciate you having you on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Glenn, for having me today. It has truly been a pleasure.
All right, guys. Check the show notes for her contact information. We'll see you guys next time.